Okay, whoa, that's loud. Okay, that's a hot mic. So thank you so much for joining us. I will call the April 26th meeting of the Montrose Planning Commission, call the meeting to order. The first item on our agenda is the roll call. So, Jan Chasteen, Richard Rogers, and Stephen Ball. And then Chad Huffman, also here. So absent today would be Phoebe Binzinger. Absent is David Fishering, Delphine, and Ron Carnes is also absent. So we do have a quorum with 4, and so we are good to go and proceed with the meeting. Approval of the minutes from April 12, 2023. Do I have a motion, or rather, any changes, any recommended changes to the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Okay, and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? And it's approved unanimously. Okay, do we have any changes or additions and deletions to the agenda?
No, we do not.
Okay, then we will turn it over for the Woods Crossing amended preliminary plat.
Thank you. Good evening, Planning Commission, members of the public. I have a brief presentation to share here. Of course, this is our first meeting back, so hopefully this all works. There we go. So, as stated, this is an amended plat application in the Woods Crossing subdivision. Some of you were on Planning Commission when the original Woods Crossing preliminary plat was presented and approved in 2021. The southern portion of the subdivision has been final platted. The applicant is seeking some amendments to the northern portion, which requires reapproval. There are 108 proposed lots in this portion. The site is located on either side of Hill Street. The western side of Hill Street is zoned R3A medium high density district, and the east side is zoned R2 low density district. This is an overall reduction in the number of previously approved lots in favor of a larger, a little over 9-acre lot, and also restructures the street layout. Of course, you've all seen this slide before. As mentioned, the Woods Crossing subdivision preliminary plat was approved in 2021, and they did final plat parts of that subdivision, which was approved by City Council. With these amendments, we're bringing the preliminary plat back to Planning Commission, which will also go to City Council and eventually final plat. These are the standard subdivision review standards that we look at. Of course, these were also examined during the original application. The plans are reviewed for conformance with the master plan and zoning, topography, soils, etc., utility availability, compatibility with the environment, adjacent streets and traffic, emergency services protection, and the impacts on area schools. According to the land use map within the comprehensive plan, the designations are split by Hill Street. The east side is designated as residential mixed density low, which provides for single family homes, duplexes, and small groups of townhomes. The west side is designated as residential mixed density medium, which suggests a variety of residential types ranging from single family homes to triplexes or townhomes. Here are the zoning regulations for both R2 and R3A. These are the regulations that determine allowed uses as well as dimensional requirements. The R2 portions allow for single-family residential development, and the R3A district allows for single-family, duplex, and multifamily development, so long as the lots meet the applicable dimensional requirements. The area is surrounded by other R2 and R3A zoning districts, as well as R1A large estate district, R3 medium density district, and areas outside of city limits. This table, and I apologize, the format got a little bit off, but this shows the dimensional requirements for development in both R2 and R3A zoning. On the proposed plat, which I'll show in a second, the majority of the lots are sufficient for single-family construction. They're not large enough for multifamily. There are some proposed townhome lots which act a little bit differently, as they are kind of single-family lots, but the overall townhome building is treated as a multi-family development. And finally, here's the plat itself. Obviously, this first page is mostly just plat notes and signature lines. This is available online. I know these can be very difficult to see on the screens here. The second page, generally more plat notes, which is pretty standard for a preliminary plat. And then here's the subdivision itself. As I mentioned, the major change is the creation of a large lot just on the east side of Hill Street. This area is located in the R2 portion of the subdivision. As I also mentioned, the street layout is changed. Another access off of Sunnyside is being proposed. One thing to note is that due to this proposed change, Big Pines Loop will no longer comply with the city's street naming conventions. And so with this plat, the existing Big Pines Loop will need to be changed to Big Pines Drive and Falcon Drive. This is necessary for emergency services as their response and routing is dependent on accurate street naming. And then finally, here's a phasing plan showing a general indication of the timing for the final platting of these lots. It has been expressed that the large lot is intended to be a church. A place of worship is a conditional use in the R2 zoning district, so that would need to come back to Planning Commission. That being said, of course, plans can change, and so this lot could, in theory, be a single-family home or a recreation facility, et cetera. But it would need to comply with the R2 zoning regulations and the uses allowed in R2. So in conclusion, staff finds that the amended preliminary plat is in compliance with the subdivision and zoning regulations as well as the comprehensive plan. The proposal meets the intent of the R2 and R3A zoning districts. Staff recommends the conditional approval of the Woods Crossing amended preliminary plat with the standard condition that we recommend for all preliminary plats. And I'm happy to answer any questions, and we also have the applicant here available for questions as well.
Any questions for Seth? Okay, so if the applicant would please come forward, please.
There we go. Applicant, please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Matt Miles, 1282 West Oak Grove Road, Montrose, Colorado, 81403.
Anything you want to add to the presentation?
No, sir. I just, I agree with staff. We're just trying to make that large lot for a church use. I'll have to come back for the special or the conditional permit.
Anybody have any questions so far? Okay, I've got one. Let me zoom in on the plat. So when this was approved 2 years ago, I recused myself on that particular meeting. Off of Peregrine Loop, did I pronounce it right?
I didn't quite hear you, Chad.
Off of Peregrine Loop, am I pronouncing it correctly?
Okay,
Peregrine?
yeah,
Okay.
Peregrine.
Good.
Peregrine, like Falcon.
There we go. There is I'm asking about an easement, easement just walking through the grass, and it's not marked on either of there's two different spots, one between the townhomes and lot 1, or there's or there's another easement potentially between lot 3 and lot 4. And so, Scott, if you can help me? Nope, okay, you're right.
Maybe this is easier. Right there or right there. Neither of those are listed as being a true easement. Are they a true listed easement?
And are those a true listed easement for folks to walk through? I'm always looking out for the kids wanting to visit their neighborhood.
Steve Stevenson wasn't able to be with us tonight, but they're open space, and open space is HOA owned.
I can speak to that. So this one has a unique plat on it. So the way we're doing them now is, because it kind of comes up with HOA saying, oh, people aren't allowed to walk here. And so we have plat notes in here now that all open space tracts are available, are open, maintained by the HOA, but are available for use by the public for pedestrian walkways. So that is covered generically, holistically throughout the whole plat.
Beautiful, thank you. That's all I had.
Learn something every day.
There we go. Yep. Okay. And no more questions? Okay, we will go ahead and go ahead and have a seat, sir. We will go ahead and open the public hearing portion of our meeting. If anybody would like to come forward, they will be given 3 minutes to speak. Ultimately, you're presenting your comments to us as the commission, and then we will present those questions to either the city staff or to the applicant based upon the relevance of the particular question. So, again, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak, and the timer will be posted up on the board so you can keep track of your comments. So does anybody want to speak? Come on up, and please state your name and address for the record.
Randy Kramer, 3670 Big Pines Loop. I merely have a question. Will the existing Big Pines Loop stay Big Pines Loop, or are they changing that name too?
Okay, we will work on that question, and so any other comments?
The comment is, it took me 3 months to get this current address in mail delivery. Please don't change the name of the existing one.
Thank you, sir. Who is next? Anybody else want to make a public comment? Last call? Okay, we're going to officially close the public comment portion of our meeting for this particular agenda item. Who would like to address the naming of the street subject? I'm looking at Scott. Okay.
Yeah, so we worked with E911 and GIS on this issue. There is a plat note on the plat that states that assuming this is approved, the existing Big Pines Loop will have to be changed to Big Pines Drive. That is because there are very specific street naming regulations which have to be followed for the benefit of the emergency responders. And so by kind of closing off what had been a loop, it does need to be changed to Big Pines Drive.
And I can add just a little bit more to that. To William's point, we've been working closely with E911 and GIS, and we're also happy to work with the property owners, make it as seamless as possible. It's a frustrating process to change a street name and change a property address. We recognize that, and so yeah, we'll be there to help as much as we can. I think it's only a handful of property owners, but know that we'll be there to help.
Thank you for the follow-up. Okay, any additional discussion from the commission? Do we have a motion associated with this agenda item?
I'd like to make a motion. Am I on? I'm on. Hereby make a motion to recommend to City Council approval of the amended preliminary plat application with the following conditions. The approval of the preliminary plat is expressly conditioned upon city staff ensuring that all policies, regulations, ordinance, and municipal code provisions are met, and that the applicant adequately addresses all staff concerns prior to the execution of the final plat. City staff is not authorized by this approval to execute the final plat prior to all conditions being satisfied. The request meets the code criteria based on evidence and testimony presented at the hearing and in the staff report.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Let's see, discussion of the motion. Any discussion necessary? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, our second agenda item, Air Parkway rezone. Yeah.
All right, good evening, planning commissioners, and thanks for the quick intro there. This is a pretty straightforward, and let me rephrase that, a very straightforward item. One thing I did want to point out real quick, I didn't catch this, and this is just a typo on my part, but the rezone is actually, it's a rezone from I-2 to B3. The staff report reflects this. All the notifications that were actually published in the newspaper reflect this. The agenda states from B3 to I-2. It's just a typographical error there. So apologies on my end on that front. That being said, I'll jump into it and we'll go from there. So what we've got tonight is a request to rezone approximately 0.14 acres from I-2 or general industrial to B3 or general commercial. The applicant is S&J Development LLC. As shown here on the slide, that star represents kind of the general proximity of this very small area to be rezoned. This is really kind of the specific pinpointed map of what's to be rezoned. Just as a little bit of background, I believe today actually the property owner just recorded a plat with really those two properties that you see there to do a boundary line adjustment. When that is recorded, that would effectively create a split zoned or two split zoned I should say one split zoned property. And what we wanted to do was just make sure this was as clean as possible, just to have a single zone on each parcel. So, following that boundary line adjustment, we're just kind of doing a cleanup here to make sure that the parcel currently zoned B3 is not split zoned. So the rezone request is just a small portion of that parcel to make sure that everything's clean on that front. This is just a little bit more specifics of the application itself. Again, this is kind of the depiction of that small area that's being rezoned, again, from I-2 to B3. And I kind of mentioned everything that's just posted on the slide there. We just, all in all, just want to avoid split zoning here, so pretty cut and dry. As far as the rezone criteria, this is not new to you all, but at the end of the day, the rezone should not adversely affect the public health, safety, and welfare of the community and should be consistent with the comprehensive plan. Staff has found that it is consistent with the comprehensive plan. This doesn't have the standard goals that I generally would reflect, but just from a consistency and cleanliness standpoint, this rezone does meet general goals of the comp plan. Also, the future land use map, as you can see on this slide here, reflects the area as employment center. Our GIS map is a little bit off there, as you can see, but don't worry about that. So that employment center generally reflects or is consistent with the B3 request. So in conclusion, staff does support the rezone, find it's met the rezone criteria outlined in section 4-4-29A. It is in compliance with the comprehensive plan. It is compatible with existing uses in the surrounding area. And again, the rezoning, this is probably the biggest factor. It will fix that split zone issue that currently exists as of today. So with that, happy to answer any questions.
Okay, no questions so far. So let's go ahead and have the applicant step up. Please state your name and address for the record and tell us what you'd like to add to the presentation.
Yeah, Scott Stryker, 14960 6215 Road in Montrose. And so the intent is that this will be the new office for Stryker and Company down at this property. And this was an opportunity when I looked at it to buy, if I could. It actually took, it's as simple to you guys, but it actually took a year to get this done. So it's an extra 4,000 or 5,000 square feet of space that would allow for us to have more of a work yard and be able to staging from trailers and equipment and stuff like that. And so we have an office and a shop, and then this extra space here is mostly covering the easements. So it's just going to be a place for just a wear yard to be able to set extra materials and stuff like that. So that's the idea and intent, and yeah, I can answer any questions you have.
How big was the boundary adjustment that the other plat was set up for?
Say that again?
How big was the boundary adjustment? said it's going through a boundary adjustment?
Yeah, it was just recorded. I think Scott can speak to that. Actually, it was
It's
just
like-
recorded today.
Yeah, it was just recorded today, so it was like 4,000 square feet. That little black outlined area is the 4,000 square feet we took from that I-2 zoning, or from I'll call it the Avient or Gordon Composites property. And we still left them their fire lane, because they have a fire lane that they need to maintain. And so that's what you're seeing there, is on the right side of that property is a fire lane that goes around. And this is all kind of quote-unquote wasted land for them, and so it's like benefits us to be able to put park trailers on it. So instead of trespassing, we figured we'd buy it.
Yeah, and here on this slide here, you can see the exact, this is really the legal exhibit of that area that was transferred over. So just very small chunk of property here.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Some legal advice. Do we need to officially do a public hearing since we literally have nobody in the public?
You might as well just open it up.
Okay, we will open up public hearing for any comments. And then seeing that no comments, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing portion of our meeting. Any discussion among the planning commission before a motion? Okay, do we have a motion?
I hereby make a motion to recommend approval of rezone request of the Air Parkway rezone to B3 to General Commercial District. Request meets the code criteria based on the evidence and testimony presented at this hearing in the staff report.
And a second?
Second.
And any discussion on the motion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? The request approves unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, staff, other business?
I don't believe so. Maybe one thing to mention would be we're having a housing needs assessment open house that will be on Monday, next Monday at 6 p.m. in the police department building. The finalized housing needs assessment will likely be completed in mid-May. These will be some preliminary results. Really wanted to discuss the community-wide survey that was distributed back about 2 months ago. Had a really phenomenal response rate. I want to say it was just over 1,200 people responded, which is for a population of Montrose is phenomenal. And so excited to wrap up that project and keep things going on our end for long-range projects. But I think that's about it.
And it looks like we will have a meeting 2 weeks from now, on May 10th?
Yes, yes, we will.
Okay, sounds good. A motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And second? All those in favor? Aye. And we're adjourned unanimously.
Who seconded that? Jen?
Jen? Yep.
Okay.
Okay.